She was auctioned off while still bleeding from birth, but one rancher bought her just in time. Beginning, the twin sons of Helios. 9 hung low in the sky, their heat beating down on the rust-colored plains where dust storms carried whispers of the past. This world had never been gentle. It was a frontier planet, colonized for its mineral veins and vast rangelands where genetically engineered cattle roamed. The ranchers here were hard people, scarred from the wars and storms, and survival was bought not with ideals but with credits, sweat, and occasional cruelty. Every settlement had its auctions. Some were for cattle, some for scavenged tech, and some, on the darker days, for people. Today, the square in the mining outpost of Drellith was packed. A crude wooden stage had been built, and on it were the broken and the discarded, slaves, debtors, and the unwanted. The smell of sweat and metal drifted heavy in the air. Among them was a girl, hardly past her first moments of life as a mother. Her name was Alara. Her dress was torn and still stained with blood from childbirth. The infant she had delivered hours earlier had been taken from her. No one knew if it was alive or discarded. The overseers didn't care. She was considered useless stock, weakened by labor, yet they put her up on the stage anyway. Her body trembled. Every movement felt like tearing apart at the seams. The whispers in the crowd were cruel, too weak to last. She'll die by morning, not worth even a handful of credits. And yet the auctioneer raised his hand, his voice booming. Lot 17, a young breeder, barely 20 cycles. Fresh womb, proven fertile. Will start at 10 credits. The crowd snickered. Nobody raised a hand. Alara closed her eyes, wishing the ground would swallow her. Then, from the shadows at the edge of the square, a figure shifted. He was tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a long, weather-beaten coat. His face carried scars that told of plasma burns, war wounds, and years under suns. His name was Cale Draven, a rancher who lived far out on the desolate plains. Cale rarely came into town. When he did, he never joined the crowds. But now, his eyes locked on the trembling girl. The auctioneer sneered. No bids? Come on, folks, you bought worse. A heavy silence stretched. Just as the hammer was about to fall to declare her unsold, Cale lifted his hand. 100 credits, he said, his voice like gravel. Gasps rippled through the crowd. That was 10 times more than the asking price. The auctioneer's grin widened. Sold. And just like that, Alara's fate changed. Middle, Cale carried her out of the square himself. She was too weak to walk. In his arms, she felt the tremors of his strength, not violent but steady. He loaded her into the back of his hover wagon, covering her with a thick woolen blanket. Alara couldn't understand it. She croaked, her voice hoarse. Why did you buy me? Cale didn't look at her as he adjusted the wagon controls. Because no one else would, and I wasn't about to let them throw you to the dogs. She stared at him, confusion and suspicion mixing in her wide eyes. She had grown up in a system where kindness didn't exist without a price. What do you want from me? She whispered. Cale's jaw tightened. Nothing, just rest. The journey to his ranch was long, hours across dust plains where massive storm walls loomed in the distance. Alara drifted in and out of feverish sleep, the ache of her body almost unbearable. When she finally opened her eyes again, she was in a small but warm room, a bed, clean sheets, a water basin beside her. She panicked, grabbing at her stomach. My baby where? Cale sat in the corner, watching quietly. His voice was heavy. They didn't give it to me. I asked. They said the infant was taken by another buyer. The words sliced through her like knives. Tears spilled down her cheeks, hot and silent. She turned away, curling up, unable to stop the sobs. Cale didn't touch her. He only said, I'll find out where they took the child. I give you my word. In the weeks that followed, Alara recovered slowly. Her body healed, though the scars inside were harder to mend. She expected Cale to demand something from her. Labor, flesh, obedience. But he never did. Instead, he taught her. He showed her how to operate the irrigation systems that fed his crops. How to herd the bio-cattle, massive beasts with glistening horns and hides that shimmered like bronze. He gave her freedom to move, to learn, to live. For the first time, she wasn't treated as property. But nightmares haunted her. She would wake in the night, screaming for her child. Each time, Cale was there, not close, but present, like an anchor in the storm. One evening, as the twin sun sank and the horizon glowed blood red, Cale returned from a trip to town. His face was grimmer than usual, but in his arms was a small bundle. Ilara's heart nearly stopped. Her baby, alive. She rushed forward, hands trembling, tears streaming as she clutched the infant to her chest. "You, how?" Kale said quietly. "Cost me nearly every credit I had left, but the boy is yours again." Ilara sobbed against her child's head, her body racked with relief. "Why would you do this for me?" Kale finally met her gaze. His scarred face softened in the firelight. "Because I know what it's like to lose everything. Conflict. Life on the ranch became something fragile, but beautiful. Ilara raised her child, whom she named Solon, while working beside Kale. She found strength in herself she hadn't known existed. She began to smile again. But Helios, 9, was never safe. Word spread that Kale had bought a breeder for more credits than she was worth. Word spread faster still that he had retrieved a child stolen from the mines. The overseers who controlled Drella saw this as defiance, a challenge to their authority. One night, while the plains winds howled, raiders came. Not ordinary bandits. These were men paid by the overseers. Their ships descended on Kale's ranch, engines screaming. Kale shoved Ilara and Solon into the root cellar beneath the house. "Stay there. Don't come out until it's silent." Ilara's eyes filled with terror. "You can't fight them all." Kale grinned faintly, his scars twisting. "I've fought worse." Then he was gone, striding into the storm of fire. Blaster bolts lit the night. Kale fought like a man possessed, his plasma rifle burning holes through raiders, his movements brutal and efficient. But he was outnumbered. From the cellar, Ilara covered Solon's ears, rocking him as the sounds of battle raged. Fear tore at her, but so did something else, resolve. She couldn't hide while the man who saved her risked everything. She climbed out. The air was acrid with smoke. Kale was on one knee, blood streaking his arm, but still firing. Raiders swarmed closer. Without thinking, Ilara grabbed a fallen blaster. She had never fired one before, but rage and desperation guided her aim. The first shot struck true, dropping a raider. Kale's eyes widened at her. "Ilara, shut up and fight," she shouted. Side by side, they drove the raiders back. When the last ship fled into the night sky, silence fell heavy on the ranch. Bodies smoldered in the dust. Kale dropped his rifle, panting, bloodied. Ilara ran to him, helping him stand. "You fool," she whispered, tears on her cheeks. His rough hand touched hers. "You're braver than you think." Ending. The overseers did not return quickly. Kale's defense and Ilara's defiance spread as whispers among the settlers. People began to see the overseers as weak, their grip loosening. Change was stirring on Helios 9. In the weeks that followed, Ilara tended Kale's wounds. He grew weaker for a time, feverish, but she never left his side. Solon gurgled in his cradle nearby, the small flame of hope they had all fought for. One evening, Kale finally sat up, his strength returning. He looked at Ilara, truly looked at her, not as the broken girl from the auction, but as the woman who had stood beside him against the storm. "Ilara," he said, his voice low, "you don't owe me anything. If you want to leave, you're free to go. But if you stay, this ranch, this life, it's yours as much as mine." Ilara's breath caught. She looked around, the rough-hewn walls, the scarred man before her, the child in the cradle. She remembered the stage, the chains, the blood, and she remembered the moment he lifted his hand to save her. She smiled through tears. "I don't want to leave." Kale reached out, gently taking her hand. His scarred palm was warm, steady. For the first time, Ilara felt not like property, not like a burden, but like a partner. Under the twin sons of Helios, 9, life was still hard. But on the scarred rancher's land, Ilara and her child had found something they never thought possible. A home, a future, and a love born not of ownership, but survival, sacrifice, and trust.